Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're diving into something pretty different called the market DNA method. We're going to walk through a specific case study for the S&P 500, and this should show us exactly how the system maps out a whole plan, from A to Z.
Now, before we really get into it, it's super important to understand what we're looking at. Market DNA is a proprietary geometric system. What does that mean? Well, it means it plays by its own set of rules. It's completely separate from the usual stuff like technical or fundamental analysis. So for this explainer, we're only going to talk about what this system's own documentation shows us.
So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with a quick look at the market DNA method itself. Then we're going to jump right into phase one. This is the big one. It covers the entry plan, risk management, and even what the projected returns look like. After that, we'll see the potential path this whole cycle could take. And of course, we'll wrap it all up with some really important disclaimers.
All right, let's get started. First things first, what is this market DNA method all about? So what is market DNA, really? It's defined as a proprietary geometric system. And honestly, the most crucial part to get is that it operates independently. It doesn't rely on any of the usual market indicators you've probably heard of. Our job today is just to look at the pieces we can actually see in the documentation.
Okay, let's get to the heart of this case study. Phase one, the entry plan. You can think of this as the foundation for everything that follows. It's where the entire plan for a market cycle gets laid out, right from the very beginning.
Okay, so take a look at this chart. According to the source material, this is the S&P 500 on February 1st, 2026. See that geometric structure laid over the price? The system has flagged that level M as the primary entry point. And as you can see, the price has just hit it.
So phase one actually lays out two possible entry points. The main one, the primary entry, M, is at 6,857.39. But there's also a secondary entry, which is labeled P of C, down at 6,799.97. The documentation is really clear that the second entry is totally optional, and the market might not even get there.
All right, so we've got our entry points. The next logical piece of the puzzle is risk management. And what's really key here is that every single parameter is defined ahead of time. It's all set before a position is even on the table. This slide here breaks down all the specific numbers used for the risk calculation. The plan starts with a hypothetical $100,000 in capital and a max allowed drawdown of 5%. Then we get into some system-specific inputs, a trapezoid time duration of 25 days, which seems to define a time window, and then a third triangle domain and a risk coefficient. All of these inputs get crunched together to figure out the trade size.
And that brings us to a really crucial sentence in the documentation. It states exactly how the position size is figured out. Both trade sizes are calculated using the hypothetical capital, the investor's maximum allowed drawdown, the third triangle domain percentage, the risk coefficient, and the contract size. This just goes to show that position sizing isn't a guess, it's a calculated result from the model itself.
So after the system's formula does its thing with all those inputs, this is the number it spits out. A calculated trade size of 0.79. This is the exact position size that would be used for each of those two potential entries we talked about. Okay, so we've got our entry points and we've got our position size. That's the risk part of the plan all sorted out. Now let's flip the coin and look at the reward side, the predefined profit targets.
The plan identifies 3 specific price targets, and all of them come from that geometric structure we saw earlier. T1 is at the mirror/lower trapezoid level. T2 is at a point called apex N. And the final target, T3, is the trapezoid top, way up at 7,009.
Now, based on those targets, the plan shows two potential outcomes. In scenario 1, let's say only the first entry gets triggered. In that case, it projects an annualized return of a little over 16%. But in scenario 2, if both the primary and the secondary entries get hit, the projected annualized return more than doubles to over 33%.
So there you have it. That's the complete plan for phase one. But what happens after the entry? Well, the documentation also maps out the potential path for the rest of the cycle.
This slide shows us the standard way things usually go. After the entry in phase 1, the cycle typically moves to phase 2, which is called mirror contact. That's followed by phase 3, the end-level event, and the whole thing wraps up with phase 4, which is completion.
But, and this is interesting, that sequence isn't set in stone. The documentation also points out an alternative path. In this version, phase 3, the end-level event, can actually happen before phase 2.
This shows that there's some flexibility built right into the model's progression.
Okay, before we finish up, we absolutely have to go over some important disclaimers. They provide some really crucial context for everything we've just talked about. Please keep these points in mind. First and foremost, this is absolutely not financial advice. The documentation also prohibits using leverage above 10 and investing essential personal funds. This analysis is purely for public documentation and verification of the model. That's it. And finally, any risk management has to follow the user's own instructions. So as we wrap up this look at the market DNA method, it kind of leaves us with a pretty interesting question, doesn't it? How does a system that defines every single step ahead of time, from the entry to the exit, challenge the conventional ways of analyzing markets, which are often about reacting to events as they happen? That's definitely some food for thought. Thanks for joining me.